So there's always been something peculiar since I was younger. A trait to be specific. I never really grew the same way as most. Not physically or mentally, but hypothetically. I grew fond of the possibilities in the universe. Like a grain of salt on my tongue. Life held no exact meaning to me. Every day, I would wake up and let things take its own course. A lot of people are afraid of clowns and sewers, but not me. The truth happens to be my greatest fear. This all formed from the fact that I was an orphan. The only parent figure that I've ever really met was my older brother named Kevin, who was 18. What happened to my mother and my father, you might ask? Well, it's always been a mystery to me too. But gradually throughout my life, other things went missing. Wallets, the happiness created from my very first girlfriend, my German Shepherd back when I was only 7 years old, and increasingly in succession, my sanity. Flashing back to me at the age of 12, I'll take you all to the strangest days of my life. What I'm about to tell you will most likely create some questions. Another possibility, you'll look at me like I'm insane. Freedom, contrast, and relief. These words describe the start of this May day in 2009. I stepped foot outside my house to see the bold glowing sun escaping the somber clouds in the sky. Intruding through this sight were the collection of royal blue colored balloons, a color which described my mindset quite well that year. A quick glance showed the source of the balloons were a pre-graduation celebration at my neighbor's. But though oddly enough, I didn't recall seeing any vehicles in the vicinity. This wasn't all that important to me at the time, however. Seeing everybody there, displaying a multitude of joy, it restored some needed comfort in my heart. Eventually, I let my feet take me down to the nearby lake hidden in the purple woods, about a 10-minute walk down the street from me. I named them that, simply put, because the bark on the trees always came across as having a purple tint to me, but no one else seemed to think so. But I also don't believe anybody strolled through those woods often enough, due to the various claims of joggers and curious individuals getting nauseous after even an abrupt visit of the wooded area. I've never experienced any feeling of illness myself from my walks. Arriving at the lake, which was tucked away behind an abundance of bushes and fallen branches, the atmosphere was seemingly irregular. There was nearly no other signs of nature. Everything around me was eerily noiseless and still, almost like I was surrounded by props on a set for a silent film. The trees, the ground, and even the air, everything seemed artificial at the moment. The lake itself wasn't how I remembered it, and my eyes had seen it so many times that I immediately knew something felt off. It was as if the surface of the water was covered with a thick sheet of ice, but that wasn't possible, as I was standing in front of this abnormality soaking in the humid 80-degree Fahrenheit weather. My curiosity drew me to the ground, my knees digging into the earth below me, getting a closer look at and the feel of this ice. After an analysis, I was greeted with even more dismay. The solid substance on top of the entirety of my favorite lake was glass. I didn't care so much as to how it got there. The question that my mind was glued to was why. Before my brain could shuffle through any wild theory, my 12-year-old self processed at the time, I noticed something. It was as still as the rest of my surroundings. Moving was not an option, no matter how hard I tried. It was like a pause button for reality was hit. A rabid animal could have been showing its teeth to me and I was completely vulnerable. Suddenly something more intense occurred. It started with a massive radiating blue light below the glass in the lake. Only seconds from the light coming into sight, an unbearable high-pitched ringing shot into my ears. My face scrunched up like the very first time I had eaten a lemon, but even that didn't come close enough to portraying the experience. I was waiting for my body to combust, and to meet my tragic death at such a young age. But a miracle then happened. Before my face popped like a balloon, I was able to control my body once again. Covering my ears as tight as possible with my hands, I began to dash away, without looking back. Blocking my ears never stopped the excruciating noise. As I concluded, the ringing seemed to be internal. Finally, I was back at the entrance. The ringing, the running, the terror, all of it had ended. However, a puzzling realization came into my view. The sky was pitch black. I was now standing in the darkness, at the dead of night. My watch on my wrist read that it was now 10 p.m., almost 10 hours from the time that I had entered the woods. This seemed impossible to me, considering I couldn't have been in there for any longer than half an hour. Disregarding the jump of time, I quickly began to make my way back home. Interrupting my focus was the feeling of being watched. Not from a window behind me or even in front of me, but from above. I couldn't help but look up. Merely just a peek was needed at the object of interest. A blue light, similar to the one over the lake covered in the skies, appearing to move and pulsate. Shaking my head in astonishment, I made my way home. The very next night, the chain of events escalated. I got home after taking a night stroll, walking right past my brother as he watched TV in the living room, and I headed straight to my room. As I made my entrance, I was welcomed by an object placed on the floor into my room. It was a Ouija board. The usual A to Z, yes, no, hello, and goodbye. This one was wooden and beat up. It looked rather intricate, but homemade. I called out to my brother Kevin to ask if he had given it to me, but I received only silence in return. I was familiar with these games at the age that I was, because my brother used to expose me to stories, some involving the use of Ouija boards all the time. The stories never scared me. I actually felt less alone hearing them, because I've experienced some of the same occurrences while being restless in my room late at night. Some of these instances include hearing unknown voices, walking, and even my window opening and closing with forces on its own. I know it's not safe to use one by yourself, but my curiosity was strong, despite the possible circumstances that could come with using such a game board. In a sense, I was excited. It would be my first time experiencing the mysteries behind these spiritual devices. Longing to find out what was in store for me, I immediately slapped the lettered piece of wood onto my dark red carpet as soon as my brother closed his door. A rush of anxiousness trembled throughout my body, with every possible outcome pouring through my head. What if I were to summon some demonic entity? What if I were to, in return, become possessed by the said presence? These thoughts quickly passed and were overthrown by my excitement. Following the instructions that I knew, though rather sloppily, I began my session. With one hand, I placed a flashlight on the floor in front of me. In the other hand, I moved the piece in a clockwise motion around the board, welcoming any being to communicate with me at the time. I then followed with the given communication methods. Starting off my round of questions, I yelled out in a respectful manner, "Is there anybody out there?" However, after a moment of silence, nothing out of the ordinary occurred. I didn't let this affect my expectations, it being only my first question and all. Deciding to rephrase my question in hopes of a better reaction, I called out, "Is there anybody there that would like to communicate with me?" Immediately after, the piece moved slowly, spelling out the word yes. Great, I thought to myself. I was about to communicate with my first spirit. "How old are you?" I asked next. The spirit guided me to the letters. 18. I followed this with the obvious. "What is your name?" That's when things started to get oddly coincidental and strange. As soon as I had finished asking, the piece slid rapidly around the board, faster than usual, and making the name Kevin. Right when the last letter was covered, a surge of electricity pumped through my room. My lamp lit up, brighter than I had ever seen it glow, but not with the usual color. No, the light bulb was pulsating different shades of red, the speed of which increased gradually. My eyes, though disoriented, picked up on something. An object sitting on my desk in front of the light source. Something I don't remember being there. I got up and I walked over to check out what it was, to find myself boggled with multiple emotions. I was staring at a newspaper open to page 2. The article headline read, "18-year-old male found dead, bare and badly burned." The account was dated for just a few days prior. Kevin Prosser, 18, found on the side of Lake Road at approximately 6:23 a.m. on May 11th. The male was stripped of all clothing, badly burned from chest down, and remained unresponsive to all paramedics and responders on the scene. How was this possible? I thought to myself. My brother was in the house with me, very much alive and well. Actually, I could hear him snoring in the other room while I was reading this passage. It must have just been a coincidental name and age match, I assured myself. Right then, my focus was deviated by the loud sound of wood dropping on the floor. I completely turned my body around, to notice the Ouija board was flipped completely over on its backside. A collective of words written in black marker, in a handwriting that appeared strained, displayed across it. "Be careful. They're watching. They're among you." I had no clue what this meant at that point in time, but the events continued to escalate. The board lifted up and flipped back over, right side up, equally as loud as before. The wooden piece fixated itself back on top, but then it began to move by itself, spelling out its own question. "Want to see us?" I paused for a moment, before hesitatingly responding out loud with, "Yes, please show yourself." With barely a second in time lapse, I got what I wanted. My flashlight flickered, the ceiling began to shake, and my lamp actually began to melt. The lamp dripped like candle wax, creating a puddle on my floor. A total of 3 vibrant blue saucer-shaped orbs of light appeared above me, circling around. I started to panic and I gravitated closer to my bed, and grabbing onto my sheets while staying towards the floor. My entire room was radiating with blue lights, rotating hovering discs, and a symphony of ringing, buzzing, and rumbling noises. The sound started out soft, and then progressively got louder and louder, with my hands clamping my ears tighter and tighter. It was an invasion of my eyes, my ears, and soon to be my own mind. That was when fear truly kicked in. A crash. Shards of glass shot from my window as a nearly deformed gray hand poked through. I was awaiting, terrified for a pair of eyes to meet mine through the newly opened window. To my dismay, there were none. I was met merely by a faceless, gray, oblong-shaped head that was almost clay-like in appearance. I stood right up and I ran out through my bedroom door in terror and dashing downstairs. I went to run past the living room when something stopped me in my tracks. There sat my brother Kevin sitting on the sofa, watching TV. His whole body was as stiff as an action figure. Kevin slowly turned his head facing me, with a wide grin plastered over his face. In a horrific sight, his skin ran off his limbs, dripping like a candy bar on a summer's day, with his skeleton subsequently flowing into a thick gray waxy substance. Glancing behind me, I saw the deformed figure from upstairs rushing down after me. In an attempt to escape the madness, I dashed out the front door and onto my front lawn. Stopping to catch my breath, I glanced up to the night sky. A group of blue balloons filled with flashing lights passed over my view of the moon, and the sounds of the next-door neighbor's graduation party filled my eardrums. A relief from the noises that I had been used to that night. It was right then that everything came together. My brother did die a few days prior, and I had been living with some kind of fake copy. My neighbors weren't real either. Their bodies had been replaced with some kind of alien community, replaying the same scene on repeat. They were all watching. They had all been living among me.